Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you again for attending our Small Business Entrepreneurship Series workshops. This is workshop number 3, and we'll talk about that in a second. I do need to give you all a heads up, a plea, a invitation. We have our GCC Unlimited event, which is going to be on December 12th. There are flyers at the table to my left, your right. We have $5,000 to give away. We are giving away a first prize, second prize, and third prize. Right now, we have 4 people signed up. So if you think you can do this and you want to do this, you got a pretty darn good chance of winning some money, getting you a nice little holiday gift. So this is our fall plan, what we are doing, and we are starting also this Friday. You'll see on Canvas the details, but we are going to have workshops the first Friday, or the Friday of every Friday in November, where if you come in with your idea, we can work it from idea to pitch to presentation. So think about it, sign up on Canvas, and make sure you take advantage of that. So now get rid of that. And you will see on Canvas somewhere. Here we go. Your page will look something like this. If you go to the sign up now on Canvas, you just simply give that information, and that is your first step to do that. So now, welcome to, close all this out. And as soon as I introduce our guest speaker and our panelists, I'm going to go turn off this big camera. So that is gone. But we are very lucky today to have the founder of Lethal Legal, which just the name of the law firm got me like, I got to know this person. I got to know more. And our speaker is Chandler J. And I also love this because my middle initial is J, and I like just having the J. So we were kind of just meant to meet and meant to find out things and learn about each other. But she is a dynamic trademark attorney and brand protection strategist. She combines her legal expertise with unmatched client experience. She helps business owners protect and monetize their brands effectively. Featured in NASDAQ and Thrive Global, Chandler has established herself as a well-known leader in the industry by making legal protection accessible, empowering, and lethal. So I'm going to let you say a little bit more about you than what my one paragraph does. I'm going to turn that off, and then we're going to jump into questions, okay?
Amazing.
All right, everyone. Chandler J.
Hello. Take this out. Yeah, okay. I'm so excited to be here and talking to you guys. Who here wants to start a business someday? Yeah. Right? And so I was in your guys' exact shoes. And when I graduated law school, actually, I was in a place where I was getting job offers from these firms, and they were telling me their salaries that they were going to offer me. And I'm like, do you know what my student loans look like? Okay? The salary is not matching these student loans. And so I was at a crossroads where I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to bet on myself. And that is truly how Lethal Legal was born. So that is what threw me into the world of entrepreneurship, and I wanted to really reverse engineer my life because these firms were like, hey, you're going to be working 12 hours a day, but we're going to give you a gym membership. And I'm sitting here doing the math, calculating like, okay, get a gym membership. When exactly am I going to be able to go to the gym, right? So I knew I wanted to reverse engineer my life, and so I fell into the world of intellectual property because it is paperless. I don't have to go to court all the time. It is federal. I get to work with people all over, and so that is how Lethal Legal was born, and that was back in 2019. So we have, since then helped hundreds of business owners lock down and protect their brands. We have defended them against copycats. We have closed, $500,000 deals. So there is a lot of power in intellectual property and in business, and really learning how to leverage your brand to monetize it. So I'm excited to be here, and hopefully you guys walk away with some good legal knowledge today.
Okay, thank you very much. For everybody in here, just to make sure we're starting at the right place, can you give a brief idea, definition of what is a copyright, what is a trademark, and what are the differences?
Absolutely. So when you think copyright, think of content. So any content that you are creating, when you think of a trademark, think of your brand, the name of the brand, any asset of a brand. So when we think even more, go back to copyright, right? The second a finger hits a photo, your pen right there, your pencil as you're writing on your paper, as you're texting that text right there, whatever it is, you automatically have a copyright in whatever it is that you create. When it comes to your brand itself, that is, what is the overall name of your brand? What is the name of your product? What is the name of your membership? Do you have a slogan? Do you have a tagline? Those are things that you can trademark, and those are really assets of your brand.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple different scenarios, and hopefully that will get everyone's questions ready to go. And if we have a student who's building a website for their new business, what parts of that website can be protected by copyright?
Pretty much all of it. So we get down to, think of all the copy, and when I say the copy, I mean the words on your website. Those are all things that you want to own. When you think of the photos that are on your website, those are things that you want to own. You can even own the code of your website, right? If you have a unique code. I actually was working with a client who had a situation, and she had a website. She's a brand designer. She focuses on helping med spas with their branding and their website design. And someone took her website, an exact replica, down to the copy. And when I say the copy, again, I'm talking about the words on the website. The About Me sections were identical. She didn't even change the name, right? And it's like, okay, this isn't adding up. She had taken all of, my client's brand photos that she had paid thousands of dollars for, and was using them to promote services. And so truly anything that you have on your website, I would say aside from the name, that's what you would want to trademark. But anything else you can lock down with copyright.
Okay, and to that too, I'm sure a lot of people here who are on social media see business accounts, professional accounts, individuals that are running a business through their thing are getting duplicated and copied, and somehow those are always able to stay up on Instagram, on TikTok, on any of these things. How, if you have a copyright, how do you work with that copyright?
Meaning, how do you defend it?
That,
right?
yes.
How do you defend it? So number one is going to be, it's going to come down to what exactly are we defending, right? If it's on social media and it's, say, a trending, reel or a trending TikTok, that's a trend. That's not something you're necessarily going to attack and go after someone for. However, if it's someone that is taking all of your brand photos, then that's when you're going to want to say something. You're going to say, hey, this is a problem, right? That could look like reaching out to them directly, or that could look like sending them a cease and desist and asking for damages.
Okay. What about the idea, and you talk about your original photos and copy on a website. What would your recommendations be to people who are looking to build their own website? Where can they find pictures? How do they get pictures? How do they get that information to put on their website?
That you can use.
That you can legally use.
Legally. So don't just go to Google and find any photo you want and then take a screenshot and then use it, right? I have clients who that has landed them in hot water. There are certain law firms out there, we call them copyright sharks essentially, and they will source the internet for any minor use, even if it's like, hey, I got this from Pinterest and posted on Instagram one time. That's still a problem, and they will come after you. I've seen it happen firsthand. So don't just go to Google and snag photos from there, but get your photos from stock photo resources, right? There are different websites that offer stock photos, and I know that we want good stock photos, right? Not just like the ones that are like, it's an okay photo, but I'm not a fan. This doesn't necessarily fit the vibe of the brand. One that I really like, you can actually access it on the computer or on your phone, is Dupe Photo. So DUPE Photo. I think it's great. And you can source photos from there, and you have a license to use them.
And as a fair warning, and some of them that are in my class have heard this before, but they hear it from you, they may listen. If you get one of these cease and desist letters, is simply taking the picture off your website enough?
Not necessarily. No, no. They can not only come at, I mean, they can say, hey, you have to stop using this, but they can demand damages. If you have a copyright, I can say, pay me, right? I took the steps to go lock down my intellectual property. This is mine. And now I want you to pay me for using it. Think of IP, right? We're talking about trademarks, copyrights, patents, whatever it is. Think of it like a house, right? Say you have a house, you have land, and you go on a month-long vacation to Hawaii. And you come back, and there are people living in your house, and you're like, wait a second, I didn't give you permission to be here. But they're like, oh, well, we're renting your house. I mean, you weren't here right this second, so we thought we could just rent it. You're gonna tell them to leave, and you're also gonna say, well, since you thought you were renting it, pay me rent, right? So you have to leave, and also you have to pay me.
Yeah, that's a good way to do that.
Yeah.
I need a month in Hawaii. All right, a lot of us work together with other people, and when you create things, ownership becomes a definite issue. Or if you're working with someone and your business partner, your co-collaborator says, well, I'll put the $100 out to get a logo paid for. How do you determine ownership? How do you work through that? How do you help business startups protect and from each other and from the outside?
Yeah, I'm actually going to ask you guys a question to see how well you guys have been paying attention. So when is a copyright created? Right. So who creates it? You create it?
Not exactly.
Tell me more.
I mean, you can defend your work by law
Mhm.
by signing it and putting it in a copyright page on a website, but you also have the copyright from the moment you create that.
Right. So does that make you the owner?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, exactly. It does. Spot on. So, for example, say you're like, same scenario, I need a logo. You go hire a web designer because you need a logo. They're like, here you go. Here's the logo. Who owns the logo? They do, not you, right? So when I'm working with trademark clients and they want to trademark their logo, the very first thing we do is make sure, do you actually have copyright ownership of the logo design itself, right? Because you also have to make sure you have ownership of the copyright in it. Now, when you are working with other people, whether you are hiring a service provider to, provide you with assets such as a logo or copy for your website or whatever it is, or you are collaborating with someone, you want ownership terms to be extremely clear. So if you're hiring someone to say the exact example of providing you a logo, you want to make sure that it is written that they are transferring copyright ownership to you. If you don't have written documentation signed by both parties that you are the owner of that copyright, then it does not matter if you paid for it. It matters who created it. So if they created it, if the web designer creates that logo, it's their logo, right? It's their copyright. They created it. Until they sign those rights over via written instrument, a contract, work for hire, whatever it is, you do not own it, even if you have paid someone to do it. Yeah.
And will that be specific forms, or can that be something written and notarized and signed by both parties?
It can be written by both parties, but it just has to be very explicit what is being transferred and signed by both parties. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the notary is always a famous little add-on.
Yeah.
We're talking contracts right now. People like to give that a lot more than they need to. But how do you protect yourself from your partner? Because much like marriages, a lot of business relationships don't last to the end. So right now, we're brothers from another mother, but when it goes wrong, who gets the copyright?
Whoever created it, right? Or whoever is written to get it in the contract. So that's why you want a contract in place between you and whoever you're collaborating with. And you want to kind of future cast what are any scenarios that could go wrong. Because like you said, right now we're good, but in 5 years, you might get in a fight about something and you're like, I cannot stand this person and I need to get away from them. Stat. How do you exit that agreement, right? While still not losing the entire business. and trying to maintain a sense of professionality when exiting with whoever it is that you're collaborating with. And so having everything written down, even if it sounds like overkill right now, right, will save you in the future, because it's not a if it's going to happen, it's a when it's going to happen sort of thing. I've seen it happen too many times to think like, oh, it'll never be me. It happens all the time. So having that in a contract and written down what's going to happen with all of the business assets is of paramount importance.
Okay. There's a ton there.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump into something totally out of left
Okay.
field. AI.
Yeah.
The idea of who owns what's created when you type into a prompt, make this. Is it the person who's typing in the prompt, person who created the AI, or is it just out there for free use?
Right now it's out there. Like the legal world is slow, right? So it's going to take a while before the courts and the case law catch up to give more definitive rules. But right now, if something is solely created by AI and there's not enough of a human element to it, then it is not something that you own. So if you just go in and you create a prompt and you say, write me, a paragraph on XYZ, and whatever that AI produces, that's not enough to say you own it, right? You may have given it that prompt, but you didn't write that. If you make substantial and material edits to what was created, then there could be an argument that you could own whatever that output is, but it has to have enough of a human touch, because anything created by AI right now, solely AI, is not something that you can copyright.
And the follow-up question with that, just because I've seen this happen, when you say edits to it, that doesn't mean reprompting
No.
AI. It means actually putting it in a Word document and physically changing it.
Exactly. Yeah, a substantial amount. I don't mean just going in and, taking out an M dash and adding a comma or adding an apostrophe S or adding a the. Like, you have to substantially change it to have some type of human input into that output.
Okay. And another thing that's very common with copyrights is the idea of fair use. And I live on it here in the world of school. But where do people make mistakes, or what does it mean when you try to use copyrighted materials under a fair use doctrine?
So I think one of the biggest things to understand right away about fair use is that fair use is a defense, right? It's not an excuse. It's not a, hey, this is fair use, I get to use it. Fair use is a defense to something that is infringement. So if you are claiming fair use about something, you are automatically, inherently saying, I was infringing, but an exception should be made for me, and here's why. It was educational commentary, right? Or something along those lines. It was a parody, a skit, or something like that. But you can't just take something and then say, oh, this is fair use. They're also going to look at, are you doing this to, provide more information and be educational about this, or are you doing it to directly sell into whatever you're doing?
And with that, boy, the question just went in and out.
Yep.
With that idea of admitting you're doing it in the fair use, you brought up the idea of parody. Is that, it's confusing as far as how far and where that can go now.
I know.
Can you kind of describe how the courts or how people look to say what is really parody and what is people taking advantage of a loophole?
Yeah. What was that case called about the Chewy Vuitton? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
With the
That
dog,
was-
the squeaky
yes,
dog toys. It was here in Arizona. The
Was
company,
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
And that didn't fly, I don't believe. Yeah, that's forever ago in law school. But there was essentially a case where there was this dog toy company that came out with a the little stuffed Chewy dog toys, and it was Chewy Vuitton. Obviously a play on Louis Vuitton. And Louis Vuitton's like, hey, not gonna fly. And the court sided, of course, with Louis Vuitton. Now, if we're taking it more towards, just the digital age, and I would say social media, because that's what's so prevalent right now. If you're recreating a skit in a funny way, I've seen a lot of them from like Love is Blind, for example, recently. They've been on my feed. If anyone watches Love is Blind, there's some creators who will create parody skits, kind of making fun or poking fun of an interaction that happened. That's something I would say is parody and okay.
Okay. And to kind of wrap up trademark or copyright strong before we go into trademarks a little bit, you said automatically once I create it, pen to paper, there is a copyright. However, are there instances where business owners, business creators should do more than have that default copyright?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you get that?
Absolutely. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about, truly, because I tell people they have an automatic copyright in whatever it is that you create, but I also always want to wave the red flag, because people will take it and they'll say, well, I have a copyright. It is really hard, this is what people don't tell you, it is really hard to enforce that copyright unless you actually get it registered. So unless you are taking the steps to go file and register your copyright with the Copyright Office, copyright.gov, the enforceability of that copyright goes way down, and so do the damages. So if you actually have a registered copyright in whatever it is that you're creating, those damages go way up. Your leg to stand on goes way up, because if you're sending a cease and desist and you're saying, hey, stop using this, but you can't even say, here's my actual copyright registration, we don't have a super strong leg to stand on, right? So I always recommend getting a registered copyright. However, as much as I'm an attorney and I'm saying, yes, you want to protect this, I'm also human, right? So there are a million things that you could go through and you could copyright. Do I suggest you copyright every Instagram post? No, it's not feasible, right? But I do recommend locking down things that are an integral part of your business and your brand.
I mean, I think music, with YouTube, this has been a big thing where people make music, put it out there, and they don't get that copyright.
Right.
And all of a sudden, famous artists or just bigger artists are taking it and sampling it to a point of monetizing it in a way you couldn't. So that's a strong thing. And copyrights are, and you mentioned this at the very beginning, you like this because it's a federal, you get to work anywhere, and it's everywhere. It's not in Arizona. You can't get an Arizona copyright.
Right.
Okay. I guess we'll do a little commercial here, let you plug what you do on your website. If they're interested in copyrights and learning, because you've got your package that you offer.
Yes. Which one?
Make me remember
Multiple.
which one. You have multiple.
Yeah.
But there was almost like the course.
Oh, yes. That's more for trademarks, but yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I am creating one for copyrights, though.
All right,
Yeah.
then we'll dive into trademarks and you do that
and then we'll
commercial
talk about
later.
it. Okay.
Okay.
Amazing.
So, other than Kanye coming up with North as a kid's name, how do you come up with something that's trademarkable? How do you know it's free to use?
Well, you have to look for it, right? You have to look to make sure it actually is okay to use. So you can look on the trademark website on TESS. It's called TESS. If you Google it, you can look it up. It's the Trademark Electronic Search System. However, when I tell you this, I am also waving every red flag, because if you go and you type in Starbucks with one S, all of Starbucks trademarks are going to come up. If you type in Starbucks with two S's, you are not going to see all of Starbucks trademarks. The problem with that is if you are looking for a name, say you want to start the name of your business, right? You're going to look to make sure, hey, no one else already has this name. You go and you look on TESS and you are off by just a little bit, it's not going to auto-populate any of those results for you. So you're not actually going to know if you can use it or not, because when we look at, is this available to use, we're not just looking at, is there any identical hit We're also looking at, is there any likelihood of confusion? That's the legal standard that the USPTO uses when determining if you can have a trademark or not. And when we're determining infringement, right? Is there a likelihood of confusion between two brands that coexist? I saw a hand over here and a hand over here.
So if you took a name and you finagled said name,
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't use what you found, would that get you in trouble?
It depends. God, the most lawyer answer ever. Yeah, it depends.
How big your company becomes?
No, it depends on how you're changing it. It doesn't depend. I don't. I will tell you what. I have a client who is a small business. I love her. She's probably not hitting six figures a year. We're probably at like the 60K range. And I got an email today from Warner Brothers, Disney. They want to come after her. It does not matter how big your business is, right? It depends. Yeah, do they have a legal basis to do something? So size does not matter.
So changing a letter or number or whatever, and that might not.
It might not be enough. Yeah.
Just
If you
go
come
back
up-
to, what is it? Coming to America, McDowell's versus McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I'll answer your question and then I have more to say. I have tons to say on this.
So I've heard about a story where people copyright general words, like let's say the taco store or sofa store, and like it's a general word. So can you do that?
We're probably talking about trademarks for that, and no. You can, well, I will say it depends. What are you trademarking it in connection with? If I'm trying to trademark the Italian restaurant in connection with an Italian restaurant, the USPTO is going to say this is just merely descriptive, right? They're going to refuse it and say that that's a legal term. It's merely descriptive. They're basically saying you are only describing what you're doing, and we can't prevent other people from using this. You might, it depends on the examiner you get, you might be able to get on what's called the supplemental register. So with the trademark office, with the USPTO, there's two different registers. There's the principal register, which is the register that any distinct mark is going to go on, right? Most marks are going to live here. There's another registry called the supplemental register, and it's a step down from the principal register, and that is where you give deference or you give protection to marks that are inherently considered weaker, right? I will tell you, for example, we will get to more about what this is in a little bit, but I have a trademark program called the Asset Protection Program that lives on the supplemental register. Why? Because I am talking about protecting assets, right? Trademarks. So there is an admission that there is some level of weakness to the mark. Now, can someone go and use it the exact same way that I'm using it? No, but I can't prevent other people from using the word asset protection. Does that make sense?
And going a little deeper in that, we're in Arizona, it's state 48.
Mm-hmm.
We see breweries, we see T-shirt companies, we see plumbers, roofers, everybody's state 48 something. How are they all getting trademarked? How are they getting trademarked? How does that work?
So it depends on what you're using it in connection with. So if you are using it in connection with something that doesn't describe what you're doing, then you can do that. If I had this is going to take me on a whole tangent. If I had a store where I was selling birds, I was doves specifically, I was selling doves, and I called it the Dove Store, they're not going to give me that, right? I'm selling doves. I'm merely describing what I'm doing. However, if we think of Dove chocolate, that's protected, right? If we think of Dove soap, that's also protected. So then the question becomes, well, those are their identical names, Chandler. How can they coexist? How can you have a registered trademark for two names that are identical? And that's because they're in separate enough categories. There's no overlap, right? You are not going to go into the chocolate aisle and start rubbing it all over your body like it's soap. You're not going to go into the soap aisle, at least I hope not, and start chomping down on it like it's candy. So that is why those two names can coexist. Same thing with Delta Faucets and Delta Airlines, two entirely different categories. So that's why they can coexist.
That's going to make me look on the next time I fly Delta to see who makes the faucets.
Yep.
Here's your question.
But would then it be a problem if Dove decided to sell soap?
Which Dove?
The chocolate Dove.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, they can't do that. They can't expand beyond their region, or they could try, but Dove soap is going to come down and shut them down. Yeah.
Could they call it something else instead?
They can call it something else, but they can't call it Dove. Yeah. So when you have a trademark, you own it. Always say this: you own it in connection with how you use it, but even more so in connection with how you file it. Right? So when you file a trademark, you want to make sure you're filing it in a comprehensive way that's going to protect all the different ways that you use it. With the USPTO, there's 45 different international classes. When I say classes, I mean categories. I'm gonna use categories 'cause it just makes more sense. I don't know why they call them classes. So there's 45 different categories with the USPTO. Every product or every service in this world has to fall under one of those categories. Okay? So when you are filing your trademark, you are filing it in connection with one or all 45. That's very rare because what company is going to use it in connection with faucets and also airlines and also microphones and also water, right? Most of the time it's not going to happen. But there are brands, say for example Starbucks, who are going to have a trademark in a lot of different categories because they have stores, they sell online, they sell coffee, they sell products, they sell, a variety of different things. So when you're filing a trademark, you want to make sure you're locking it down and you're filing it in connection with different categories that you're using it in. Yeah. Mm-mm. No. You can't prevent someone from also selling donuts. Yeah. You can prevent someone from selling a donut if you have a specialty donut and you have a unique name for that specialty donut. You can prevent someone from stealing that name. But if it's like a jelly-filled donut, for example, right? I can't stop someone from also selling a jelly-filled donut, but I can stop someone from selling a jelly-filled donut that I specifically call the silly goose donut or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I would have to look into the case.
A lot of times, I don't know that one specifically, but it's more dealing with the landlord and the leases as far as what's a compliance or breach of the lease that they signed. That Chick-fil-A will say, we're the only one in this strip mall that can sell chicken products, breakfast sandwiches, maybe even coffee. I can't imagine that, but they might do that. That would be the way that goes. And a lot of times, like for instance, a strip mall right by me had a breakfast restaurant and a Mexican restaurant on the two different ends. And the breakfast restaurant was sold to a family that wanted to turn it into a Mexican restaurant. But the other restaurant's lease said we would be the only Mexican restaurant in this shopping center. So they couldn't do that. They added a couple Mexican dishes, but they had to keep it a jazz-themed breakfast restaurant that happens to also sell chili killies. That there's ways around it, but that's where that goes. It's more contract law than trademark law, which is a little bit contracts too, but.
And then the other thing you have to think about too is it also comes down to who has the pockets to defend against Chick-fil-A, right? Like at that point, it is probably easier to close than, and that's also where it's frustrating because sometimes these big bullies can come in, these big brands can come in and they bully small businesses, right? I have no idea what email is going to be waiting for me from Warner Bros. When I get out of this, but I'm intrigued to see what they have to say, and that's something that I'm unfortunately going to have to bring to my client and say, what do you want to do? Because we can fight it all day long, but they have the pockets to drag it out.
And that's, we'll get you one sec. That was one of my favorite other cases, Starbucks Frappuccino. And so my students know this. There was a trademark infringement because a brewery made a stout beer, but they spelled Frappuccino wrong and called it that. I mean, you can't really fight Starbucks.
Yeah, no, you can't.
All right. Go ahead.
You were just going to circle back. We were going to circle back on what we were talking about.
What were we talking about? Remind me.
If you slightly change the name.
Yeah. So kind of brings it back to that. It depends, right? It just depends. If you can bring me a specific example, I can give you a more definitive answer. But it depends. I hate saying that. It makes me feel like the most lawyer ever. But it depends.
Because in starting your business, right, you pick your entity. But you also have to go out in Arizona, you have to go see if that name is available, right? So if that name's not available and you change it up slightly to make it fit what you're looking for, you can still do that here. You can get your name, but what happens when
Your LLC means nothing. Hate to break it to you. Your
And-
LLC
yeah.
means nothing.
We're going to dive into that deep in
Yeah.
a minute, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I love
and
it.
it's also, I think a lot would go to that is intent to confuse. If the existing name is there and you're trying to modify it and you're going to be doing a similar thing, there's an intent to confuse,
you're doing something totally different.
then there's a chance it may work. All right.
Here we go. So I am a musician.
I love it.
and thank you. I have just released the debut song and another song right after that. And I want to ask, because it's all about trademarks and copyrights, especially if you want to protect your music legally and everything, what is the best advice you could give to me as a new artist that will probably make it big? I'm confident.
You will make it big, not probably.
Yes.
Take that out of your vocabulary. Protect early and protect often.
Okay.
I have seen scenarios where you wait too long and things can spiral beyond your control. And I'm not saying there's not solutions, but those solutions are going to cost 10 times more than if we would have just taken those preventative measures to begin with. So I always try and teach a proactive approach and a preventative approach to legal strategy, because when done right, you can leverage it to make you more money, right? If you lock everything down and someone wants to use it, license, right? You can license it out. Now you're getting paid because someone else wants to use your stuff, instead of someone else decided they're just going to use your stuff because they decided so, and then you're having to spend legal fees to go after them and try and recoup payment. So protect early, protect often. I always, I talk about legal, like if you are in the middle of a desert and you say you're on a landmine, right? Would you rather someone come and deactivate that landmine for you? Or would you rather have a map so you know how to avoid those landmines in the first place? You want a map. Who wants to be sitting there with their foot on that landmine sweating, right? I'm nervous. I don't know how this is going to play out. I'm stressed. I'm not sleeping at night. My stomach is in knots, right? No one wants that. So if you take a proactive approach, you can avoid those legal landmines.
Okay, thank you. I have
Yeah.
another question. It's not related to music, but you are a woman in business, and I'm aspiring to be that, and I would really like to know what are a few challenges of your journey that you've overcome, and any advice for everybody here, like doubts or anything.
Yeah. Number one, you truly have to believe in yourself. You have to have undeniable faith and belief in yourself. And it may sound scary, but never have a plan B. Never have a plan B. Some people might disagree with me on that, but I think that when you have a plan B, you are subconsciously telling yourself that there is a possibility plan A might fail. And I'm not going to let that happen, right? And I don't want you to let that happen either. So do not negotiate with yourself. You have a plan A. This is what's happening, and it's going to work. And that is all. That's the only thing that can exist in your mind. You have to block out everything else.
That's awesome. All right, let's dive into Arizona. Let's talk LLCs.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that horrible thing that not even the corporate, Secretary of State does with state trade names and trademarks. what do you get when you create your LLC, when you register with the Secretary of State, a trade name, trademark? What does that provide you?
Not much.
Not much.
Not much. You can use the name here locally, right? So you can use it locally. But that doesn't really give you much that just using the name doesn't already give you. So when you use a name, you automatically have what's called common law rights in a name. Now, common law rights are going to give you rights to use a name in your territory. If someone decides to be, say someone's your neighbor and they try and start the exact same thing with the exact same name, you would have common law rights to go after them and say something, whether you have a trade name or a state trademark or not. However, if someone is just across that state border, right, or they're in a different state, or they're selling something online, and this is where it gets really confusing because we are in such a digital age, and it's if someone else starts something, do you have a right to say something to them if you don't own what you've created? And the answer is no. So when we bring it back to the state, we're talking about a state trademark or a state trade name, it doesn't give you much. A lot of people think, well, I've had so many clients come to me, don't worry, I have the trademark, I checked all the databases. Well, they didn't check the USPTO, you only checked the state database, and again, that's not definitive. And also another thing, the official name of your LLC does not have to be the name of your brand. Okay, you do not have to. It doesn't have to have the same name. So don't get caught up thinking like if my LLC is named XYZ, that has to be the name of my brand or that has to be the name of my business. Your LLC is there not to give you rights to use a name, but to create a shield from liability. Right? That's what it does. It basically says, hey, I have an LLC, which means I am a separate entity from my business, so that if I get sued or my business gets sued, you can't take my house and my car because those are in my name. Versus, you might have some assets in your business if you want to write cars off and stuff like that, but yes.
Question regarding that.
Mhm.
I have a spot with the LLC in
Mhm.
Arizona, but if you move different states, would you get a separate LLC or just kind of put everything under a trademark everything?
Well, okay. I'm going to give you the legal answer, and then I'm also going to give you the human answer as someone who has moved around a lot. Okay, I've bounced around a lot, but I've always planned on coming back here. I have kept my Arizona LLC. However, if you are making a permanent move, right, the better answer is going to be to either A, open up a new LLC where you are, or B, file as a foreign LLC in that new state.
And then the same for like digital, like virtual consultation and stuff like that?
What do you mean?
Like if you have virtual clients?
Yeah, what's the problem?
But your business is still based here in Glendale or Phoenix.
Yeah.
You're fine servicing people anywhere as long as you're doing your work here.
Yeah.
You're an Arizona business.
Yeah.
If you decide to rent a vacation home in Colorado to spend the summers up there where it's cooler, and you're going to work 6 months a year there, then you may want to follow what Chandler's saying and create something separate and secondary, but that's...
Yeah. And, I have been that person who done a lot of things. I get a lot of good ideas, okay? I'm also a tattoo artist, you guys, so it's the Gemini in me. And every time I'm like, oh, I got a good idea, I'm gonna full send. And so I start a new LLC and a new entity, and you're just creating another tax filing for yourself, right? So just don't jump the gun on anything. Make sure it's truly an aligned decision that's gonna stick. Yeah. You had your hand raised back there as well. That's okay. If it comes back, let me know.
Yes, sir. Up front.
I'm gonna ask, is there well, you mentioned databases,
Mhm.
check for names.
Yeah.
Since your LLC name doesn't have to be the same as your business, is there a way to go about checking? Because I do want to make some changes to my business. I'm not exactly sure
Yeah.
where I should step towards, just because I don't want to touch anything.
Yeah, so are you meaning for your brand name and like trademark wise? Yeah, so it's going to be TESS, TESS, the Trademark Electronic Search System on the USPTO site. You can look it up now. But again, I just wave that red flag because it will show you direct hits, but it shows you a piece of the pie, not the full pie. And when we talk about filing trademarks, we want to know that whole pie before we go in, because we don't want to be in a situation. I mean, trademarks take a long time to get registered. It's about a year before trademarks are registered. So if we're filing something, I'm not in the business of wasting my client's time or money. So I want to make sure that trademark is going to go through, because I don't want you to sit there building a brand for the next 10 months just for me to come back and say, hey, the USPTO said no. So either you have to pay me more to fight it, or you have to rebrand.
And
So basically, consult and then
Yeah.
both are checked,
Yes.
the main one and the.
Yes. So yes, let me clarify and go into that a little bit more. So there's the trademark electronic search system, and there's a software that we use internally, right? There's attorney programs or softwares that we can use to do a more definitive search to further see what's on that landscape.
And a big trick with that, I think, is especially if you're taking a common word and spelling it different, like if you're
Yeah.
spelling toys, T-O-Y-Z, don't just search T-O-Y-Z, search T-O-Y-S. Because if what you're doing is selling like some sort of toys that match that word, you are gonna lose that trademark fight also,
Yeah.
so.
And another thing is, when you are looking at tests, just because you see something come up that is identical, again, that doesn't mean you can't use it. It just means, hey, we need to pause and we need to look into this a little bit more. Because again, it comes down to what way are they using it and what way are you using it? Is there any likelihood of confusion? And it's not what you think is confusingly similar or what would cause confusion for consumers. It's what the USPTO is going to think is confusingly similar. So that's why, again, Dove soap and Dove chocolate, those can coexist. So just because it's the same brand name, don't be, too down on yourself. There is still a chance. You just have to do some more investigating to find out, okay, are we using it in the same way? Would I fall in the same category as them, or would I fall in an entirely different and unrelated one?
Would you get in trouble if you were to write, let's say in a story, right? You're writing a story and you put, how do I say, like McDonald's, but you don't actually put McDonald's, you just put McWannels. Could you still get in trouble for doing that if you put it in your story?
Put it in your story for what? Are
Like-
you creating a business?
Like a book. Like, let's say you're writing a book and then you use that name to describe the place that you're gonna go eat at. Could you still get in trouble for that?
No, I would say you'd be fine on that.
Then let's say you're making a ad for your business, right?
Yeah.
And then you compare something to McDonald's, but you don't use McDonald's as the word.
Then we're getting, that could be a little bit trickier. I would have to see more specifics.
Oh, okay.
That could just be a little bit trickier in the sense of, if you're running ads, the liability is going to be higher, and what is your business doing? Is there likelihood of confusion there? Are consumers going to be confused? Is McDonald's going to feel like you are trying to infringe on their brand? There's just a lot of unanswered questions that we would, have to figure out.
So if you have a name.
Yeah.
And it could pull up red flags.
Yeah.
At that time, instead of trademarking that name, you said that it doesn't have to be your business name. So you can create another name that's safe, and then as you said, check off the marks to what you're doing. You can still keep that one under the umbrella.
Meaning, keep your LLC.
Name that might call. Right,
No.
LLC name.
Well, you could have an LLC name, but I wouldn't want you using it in your business marketing. I wouldn't want, yeah.
I built an umbrella, but I still stuck that other and still.
You're still using it. So even if you don't have a trademark, but you're still using it, if someone else already owns it, they can come after you for infringement. And they
Right.
can take, this is the other, go ahead.
I think what she's saying is if you put, like, say you create Apple LLC of Arizona. If you're out there saying, I'm the owner of Apple, you're gonna get in trouble even if there's a company underneath it that's actually your business name. You can keep the LLC if you got the LLC. You just don't wanna promote it or use it.
Right, say I have Apple, but then I name it something. I name it Orange.
Yeah, that's fine. The name of,
But Apple is under Orange, just
but you're still, if you're saying as I transition out so I don't lose the people that I already have, what I'm hearing you say, or what that tells me is you are still using it as a brand name. You can use it exclusively as the name of your LLC when you are sending and signing contracts. But if you have it on your website that you are using it as a brand name, if you are using it in your marketing, if you're using it in your emails in connection with the services that you're selling, then no, I would say that would land you in hot water. You can use it if it is solely the name of your LLC. Yeah.
So you don't have to get rid of that, you can just start from.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Unless it's out there in public, you gotta get rid of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to trademarks, and you talked about basically a common law trademark type thing. What if a business comes in from out of state that's just brand new, opening a business, and they went and they got a trademark at the USPTO, and you went to the Arizona Secretary of State, have a trademark? Do you have any rights in Arizona if someone with a federal trademark comes in and you do the exact same type of business, and they believe it's confusing to have both businesses?
Well, if they have priority rights, then no. If they
So
have priority rights, then no.
the federal trademark gives them priority, even though your business may be years older.
Well, it depends. Again, the most lawyer answer ever. Federal is always going to trump any, claim because they have more leverage. Now, if you have common law rights to where you have been using a name for years and then they went and got a federal trademark, but they didn't start using it until after you, they can't come knock down your door and say, you have to stop using this and you have to rebrand. However, they can say you can't expand. So they still can limit you, right? You can't expand beyond your territory. You can't expand into, these other products because we're already doing that. Yeah, so that they can limit you.
Okay. And what should some of our creative students do who have already started to come up with names, businesses, logos that they haven't trademarked yet, or even possibly copywritten information also, and they see other people using it? Can you protect it without going to a lawyer?
Yeah, you can absolutely DIY it, right? You can DIY it. It comes down to doing it correctly, because at the end of the day, it's a legal proceeding. So you want to make sure that you are checking all the T's, you're dotting the I's, and you're doing it properly. But you can DIY the process.
Okay, and now that's going to take me definitely to your commercial opportunity here. Your website has, and I'm going to put it up here, a lot of information, and is one of the very few lawyer websites that say, here's how you do things on your own also. So if you want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So I created a program. It's a DIY trademark program called Asset Protection Program, and it walks you through exactly how to DIY the trademark process just like I would. So I tell you the softwares I use, I tell you the strategies I use, I tell you exactly how I think about things, because it's not the filing. I am very confident that each and every single one of you would be qualified to go on and fill out and complete paperwork, right? That is not where the difficulty comes in. The difficulty comes in when you are identifying, hey, what all different categories do I need to be in? Hey, am I actually searching this properly to make sure that there is no other competitor that already has the same or similar name than me? And hey, by the way, what does same or similar actually mean, right? How do you analyze what would be considered too confusingly similar or not? So it comes down to things like that. So this program walks people through exactly how to DIY the process in 2 hours or less. I've had so many people go through this program. It's one of the best things I've created, and to this day, I just have people all the time messaging me. I just got it. I got another trademark. My registration just came in. Thank you to APP. So it's a really incredible resource.
To show you off a little bit here.
I also share on, and this, not paid obviously, but I share a lot on Instagram. Just educational, different stories, different cases, things like that. So if anyone wants to connect with me on Instagram, I'm always posting different, educational nuggets and things there as well. Yeah.
What's your Instagram? I couldn't find it.
It's at The Lethal Lawyer.
Okay. The idea was there to put it up, but once you turn it off, I guess it stays
It
off.
happens.
So
That's all right.
it looks like it's trying. I see the light on there. And it's slowly coming up. It's just, it's slow. All right, but thank you.
Shelby Sapp.
Let's,
Case?
okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Who here, if I say Shelby Sapp, you know who I'm talking about? Yeah, right? Have you guys been scrolling on TikTok and you see a blonde girl in like workout gear come up on your timeline talking about sales, high ticket sales, high ticket closers? Shelby Sapp is a pretty big name now. And what's interesting is she is currently getting sued by her former business partner. What is not involved in this lawsuit, though, and what also I find wild, is that she has coined a brand called She Sells. She Sells Academy, where she sells a program teaching people how to be high-ticket sales closers. And she has blown up. I mean, she's so well known. She's doing so well. She's constantly talking about how much money she makes. That's key, right? Because now we know the damages. Now we know, oh, you're making this much a month. Oh, you just bought a new Lamborghini. Oh, you blinged out your Rolls Royce in pink glitter. Okay, so you're doing well. You just bought a mansion in Miami. Interesting. You're doing really well. So there is a girl who came out. Her name is Brooke Triplett. And she said, hey guys, Shelby Sapp is copying me. Shelby Sapp actually stole She Sells from me. I coined She Sells. This is exactly what I do. I have been teaching people how to be high-ticket sales closers for the longest time, and I have been doing it under the name of She Sells. And by the way, look at the logo. It looks almost identical to what I started. Look at all these Instagram posts where I'm doing this exact thing and she's copying me doing this exact thing, right? There's a pattern of copying behavior. So this girl, Brooke, comes out and she says, I coined She Sells and Shelby Sapp is copying me. And you know me, I'm nosy. One thing about me, I'm nosy. So I put my little detective cap on and I'm doing some research and I'm like, who really owns She Sells? So I'm looking into this and I'm like, you guys are both crazy. Neither of you own She Sells. No one has a trademark. There's only one person who has a trademark. Her name is Susanna Searson and she owns the term She Sells. So Brooke nor Shelby have rights to use this name. And if I was Susanna Searson, I would be going after Brooke and I would certainly be going after Shelby for all these damages and saying, hey, pay up because I own this IP. I own this property. I have invested in this. This is mine. And now you're capitalizing off of my goodwill. You're capitalizing off of my reputation and the IP that I own. And what happens when someone does that? You get a payday. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say someone is small starting off
Mhm.
and like their cash base starts popping off. And somebody sees this and they're like, this thing's gonna be happening for about the copyright.
Yeah. Trademarks. Yeah.
Go with this.
Mm-hmm.
So then they want to get the copyright for it, but I already have it. So can I use it?
So are you talking about trademarks? Copyrights. Okay. So this is actually interesting. What was her name? You know the very demure? If I say, you know what I'm talking about? It was like very demure, yeah. Okay. So when she started popping off on TikTok, there were people who did just that. Actually, a creator came out and said, hey, everyone's trying to do this, so I actually went and filed the trademark for you, and I'm going to give it to you. What's interesting, though, is it's still fraudulent because you don't technically have a right to it, and that when you file an application, a trademark application with the USPTO, you are saying, I have a bona fide intent to use this name. I'm doing this in good faith. I'm not doing this in a fraudulent way. I believe that I am the owner to this mark. And so when she was doing that, even though good intentioned, it was not kosher. So to answer your question, so what I would do if I was the girl who was like, coined very demure, right? I would then go after whoever is filing these trademark applications, and I would say, hey, you need to not do this. We're going to petition to cancel your mark. So there are solutions, kind of like I was saying to you earlier, there are solutions, but all of those solutions are going to be 10 times more expensive than being proactive in the first place, because now instead of just paying to file a trademark application, you are paying to file a trademark application, and you are also paying to send out who knows how many cease and desists to these people. Yeah.
Much like, it's other phrases. Something like Nike with the just do it. When they decide that was going to be their thing,
Yeah.
they got a trademark. Now, how they use it or don't use it, that's up to them. All right, let's get back to where I was here. So, we kind of talked about enforcement, and we started talking a little bit about DIY of all this, and we hit on those a little bit, but if we have a limited budget and students may have some things that need to be, a business owner needs some things copyrighted, some things trademarked, where do I spend my money first? If I've got just enough to do one, why do I do that one first?
You want to prioritize. This is a situation that I talk about with a lot of my clients, because people come to me and they've built these businesses and they're like, hey, I'm ready to trademark. And I'm like, okay, well, we have about 8 different trademarks that I can see from one glance at your website, right? We have the overall name of your brand. We have the logo. We have the submark design logo that you use. We have the name of your podcast. Oh, the name of your membership is different. You have, a unique different method that we want to lock down. And by the way, you also have a product, right? So there's a handful of different things that you can trademark off the bat. And I would say it comes down to priority every single time. And the way I identify what is the most important is I ask, what would absolutely kill you if you had to change the name of this? It is going to be a lot easier to change the name of a course or to change the name of a podcast or to change the name of a membership than it's going to be to have to change the overall name of your brand. So from a priority standpoint, I'm always going to say, let's start with the overall name of your brand. Or another big one is product-based businesses. If you have a product-based business, before you invest in all of the material itself and then all of the packaging, you want to make sure that you can own that name, because I cannot tell you the amount of people that I've worked with where it's like, hey, Chandler, we just got this cease and desist, but I have $50,000 worth of product sitting in my warehouse. I'm like, we can't sell that. We can't sell that now. You sell that now, you are getting sued for way more. So unfortunately, that $50K, you got to bless and release. That product is gone. You have to rebrand, and we have to get new packaging, and we have to get, a new name for you to operate under.
Any other questions? All right. And I know we focused, and where your practice is, trademarks, primarily copyrights. Just, I'm gonna throw patents in there just for fun.
Yeah.
When we have ideas that are anything, new invention, a name, a brand, a musical hit, what do we do before we share that with people that may be investors, maybe partners? How do we protect ourselves as we are creating and launching? Can we share it with our friends and family?
You can, right? But again, we're hoping that they're not going to screw us over, and we know how that goes every time. When you are talking to different investors, especially, actually, I'll tell you this, it's funny. Number one, the answer is sign non-disclosure agreements, right? Have everyone sign non-disclosure agreements. Have a client, and she was talking to me the other day, and she's like, hey, I am working essentially with this company who provides a variety of different mentors and potential investors that I can meet with. And she wanted to know, should I be sending them non-disclosure agreements? And my answer is, of course, be sending them non-disclosure agreements. And I guess she brought it up to this company, and the company was like, yeah, they're not going to sign anything. So you can try, but they're not going to do it. I'm like, that's really interesting and also a little sketchy because I would never have a problem signing a non-disclosure agreement. But why am I wanting to sign up to be mentored by people who already have the pockets, the brains, the money, the resources available to take my ideas and run with it? And I'm just gonna let them do it. Like all they have to do is sign a piece of paper that I can provide them, right? So all of that to say, NDAs are your best friend. NDAs.
They're easy, but I guess the thing that we keep going back to, or I keep hearing and everything, so you can protect yourself, but you also have to defend yourself. There's no patent trademark office, copyright office, police that come out and help you. So how do you recommend to people to do that?
Yeah. So, a few things. Let's dive into it. Visibility equals vulnerability. And as a business, what do you want? Visibility, right? You want more eyes on your business. Why? Eyes result in leads, leads result in cash flow. That's the ultimate goal of running a business. But when you have those eyes and you have more leads, you are, as a result, opening yourself up to more vulnerability. And it's just the cost of doing business. So when you're opening yourself up to vulnerability, you kind of have two choices. You can either A, take that proactive approach and be like, okay, I'm going to lock things down from the jump. I'm going to protect myself now. I'm going to take a proactive approach and be preventative here, or I'm going to try and fight off these scenarios as they come up. And of course, I'm always going to recommend taking that proactive and that preventative approach. But what I will say is, even when you take that proactive and preventative approach, that doesn't mean you aren't going to face legal issues. You are. If you are in business, you will be facing legal issues. But you want to be in a position of power when you do. And legal gives you leverage. So when you have your legal ducks in a row and you have those protections in place, you are starting from a place of leverage. You are starting from a place of power versus being on the flip side and being like, well, I'm trying to fight off all these things, but I'm powerless, right? Like I don't own anything. So I'm trying to get them to stop and I'm spending resources telling them to stop and X, Y, Z, but you don't actually own anything. So you don't have a leg up, and legal is what really gives you that leg up to be able to defend against these things, because it's not an if, it's a when, right? It is going to happen. Whether you have the protections or you don't have the protections in place, it is going to happen. It's just, what can you do about it when those situations arise?
I have a question circling back to the NDA.
Yeah.
I guess I thought NDA was more of like something you sign for like a celebrity event. But my main question would be, like, for example, one of my friends is a teeth whitener.
Yeah.
And he mentors and teaches other people teeth whitening. But our old salon, people literally copied, they bought his exact furniture, exact paint colors, exact, like, everything and copied his business. If you're, like, teaching someone, do they need to sign an NDA? Like, at what point is it they're using your lesson versus they've literally copied everything?
So absolutely. And anytime you're working with someone, no matter what type of relationship it is, I recommend having some type of agreement in place. And in that type of situation where you're mentoring someone, you're teaching someone, it's, you want to lay out, hey, you cannot take any of the IP I have, you can't take any of the trade secrets that I have and run with it to start your own thing. You know, I'm not preventing other people, say, from, you know, being a med spa, or say, you know, I have other attorneys working with me. I'm not going to prevent you from also going out on your own and starting a trademark law firm if that's what you want to do. But you can't take my exact systems, my exact resources, my exact email scripts, my exact, you know, way of doing every single thing that I do and running with it. That would be unfair competition. Yeah.
All right. As my mind draws blank back here. More about trademarks. How, or versus copyrights. Let's talk about the length of them. How long do you have a trademark for?
As long as you use it. As long as you use it. So if you file a trademark, you will own it, and you get it, you will own it up until the 5-year point. At the 5-year point, you have to file paperwork that just says, hey, I'm still using this. The theory behind that is they're not going to continue to give you rights to use something if you're not using it, right? It's the same thing kind of like land. You have this land, but if no one's living on the land, we're not going to let you just continue to have this land. Because when we're thinking about brands and businesses, the goal is to stimulate the economy. The goal is to have people create things and put things out into the world. And so it's a check and balance of making sure, hey, you are still using this, you still have a right to use this. So at that 5-year mark, they will have you submit paperwork that just says, hey, look, here's some evidence that I am in fact still using this brand name like I said I was. And then after that, you have to do it again at the 10-year mark. And then after that, it's every 10 years. So as long as you are continuing to use the brand, you can have it for as long as it exists.
Okay,
Yeah.
and in the, I guess, on the opposite end of it, if I come up with a great idea, great slogan, and I want to get it trademarked, can I hold on to that for 5 years before I have to use it? Or when do I have to start using my idea?
Oh, this is going to get me into a whole can of worms. Okay, so there are, who here, okay, this is a good question. Who here thinks that to have a trademark, you have to be using the name? Right. So to have a registered trademark, you have to be using the name, but you actually don't have to be using the name to file the application. So what's really cool about the USPTO, and I love that they do this, is they allow you to file an application for a brand even if you haven't launched it yet. So typically at the time of filing, you would normally submit evidence and say, look, here is the brand name that I'm using, and here is the way that I'm using it, and here is evidence showing exactly what I just said, right? And as long as those things check out, they're likely going to give you that trademark as long as there's no confusion issues. Now, the other way to file, it's called an intent to use basis. And what's cool about this is they let you file that application without submitting any proof or without submitting any evidence at the time of filing. So it allows you to get your application in. It starts going through the review process. The USPTO will say, okay, this name checks out, you're allowed to use this name, but before we give you the official registration, you have to show us proof. You have to show us proof that you are in fact using this name like you say you are, or like you said you were going to. And when you do that, you will, they'll issue what's called a notice of allowance, and you will submit a statement of use, that's the legal paperwork. And when you submit that, they'll review it, they'll say, okay, this evidence looks good, and then that is when they will grant the registration. But the reason I love filing trademarks that way, I've filed all my own trademarks that way, is because you want to get that name in, you want to start the process, right? Even if you haven't launched something yet, because time is of the essence when it comes to trademarks. Trademarks are first to file. So if you wait, I've waited 3 days before for something I wanted to file for myself. I was like, oh, you know, I can do this in my sleep. I'm waiting 3 days. I just kept pushing it to the next day, pushing it to the next day. And in 72 hours, someone went on and filed something that was too similar to the name that I wanted to file for. I'm SOL. You snooze, you lose. I knew better, right? I believe that when you know better, you do better. I, in fact, did not do better. And it screwed me. I have a friend who, she got her application in, and it got time to go to the review process. And generally we're seeing, like, you know, if there's a day, 24 hours, we're going to see if someone had filed something. Someone had filed something 5 minutes before she got her application in. 5 minutes. There's no way she could have known, right? It's not populating in the registry yet, so we can't see. And her trademark was denied because someone had filed something 5 minutes prior. It went down to the minute. So trademarks, when it comes to trademarks, time is truly of the essence. And it's kind of like a lunch line, right? If you are getting in line for lunch, you want to know that when you get to the front and you are ready to get served lunch, that you're going to be fed. So when you get that application in, you want to know, hey, I'm going to be fed. I'm going to get this registration. And so that's why we do those searches to make sure. I saw a question over here and a question here.
I
You speak to me about it. Okay, so two options. Either A, yes, that's something a firm or myself can help you with. And then the other option is I have a DIY trademark program that walks people through how to do it themselves in a way that I would do it. And it breaks things down in a way that actually makes sense, and it gives you step-by-step tutorials. So you see, okay, this is exactly what I need to do and when I need to do it, and breaks it down in a way where it makes it simple. I know it can sound overwhelming. I'm throwing a lot of information at you guys right now. But when you get in there, as long as you know the strategy behind things, it's doable.
And we'll get you one second. I just want to give a little bit more of a shout out to Chandler, because she takes something that is very confusing, and there are a ton of terms, ton of timelines, issues and whatnot. And if you read what she posts on her website, if you use the material she provides, it really takes a lawyer out of it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is we use basic words, and there's sentences that everyone can look at in a checklist that says, okay, I take step 1, then 2, then 3. It's not there with the intent to deceive or make you so frustrated that you have to pay thousands of dollars for a lawyer to be there, tens of thousands. So it's a very unique thing that we have someone like Chandler who does this and does it for the good of the people versus the good of herself.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a question too?
Yes, I was gonna ask, later on, I am planning to open a record label.
Okay. Heck yeah.
The thing is, the name that I wanna use for that record label is, the word is part of this movie that everybody knows, which is Wonderland.
Okay.
Alice in Wonderland. I know that the word Wonderland is not exactly trademarked, especially for a record label,
Right.
but the whole, like, Alice in Wonderland is.
Yeah.
Would that cause an issue?
Depends on the categories that you're filing in, right? So it goes back to the different ways that you're using it. Does it fall under the same category? And if so, is there a way to create enough distinction where there wouldn't be any overlap?
So it would only be, for example, it would only be for like the record label, for recording music and getting artists signed. That shouldn't be a problem. Like it's movies and that.
As long as it's not in the same category, it comes down to, do these two things fall under this? Off the top of my head, I don't know what category record labels fall in. And off the top of my head, I don't know, what Alice in Wonderland is gonna fall in. I have my
How many
initial
places
thoughts.
it's going to fall in.
Right, all the different categories. So I would have to look to give a more definitive 100% answer. But the other consideration to take in here is, if it was, when we're working with clients, there's very rarely, well, sometimes, there's very rarely ever a clear-cut answer. We live in the gray, right? So unless, I mean, it's legal, of course, it's gonna be in the gray, right? So unless I'm saying, hey, this is an identical mark for an identical thing, then it's an absolute no, and I'm waving every red flag that I can pretty much tell you it's gonna get denied, right? That is the time where I'm like, hey, this is gonna get denied. We can do the clearance search, we can provide results that say, hey, this is, essentially giving the green, yellow, or red light to move forward. Green means, hey, this is good to go, we think it's gonna get registered. Red means absolutely not, it's not gonna get registered. Yellow, which is where a majority of results fall under, is moderate. Like, hey, there's a chance this could get registered, and there's a chance that this could not get registered. And here is why. Here are the different marks that are already registered that present a potential risk, and here is why they present a potential risk. And then we look into, what are the dates of use, right? Maybe they have a trademark filed, but you started using the brand name before, so you have common law rights. If that's the case, and we file the application, and the examining attorney was to come back and say, hey, we're denying your mark on the basis of this prior registered mark, but you have first common law rights to use, we would go to them and say, hey, let's enter a coexistence agreement, right? We can try to challenge your mark, but instead of that, let's save the time and money for both of us. So again, potential solutions, but there's so many different caveats that come into play when we talk about these things. So in short, again, the most lawyer answer ever, it depends. I feel like I'm always saying that, it depends. But in those scenarios too, we look at ways, are there ways to strengthen, maybe it's not just Wonderland. Maybe there is another word, a unique word that we add on to that creates even more distinction so that there truly is no overlap.
Toss a vinyl at the end, you'll be all good.
Yeah,
Wonderland Vinyl.
yeah, yeah,
And
Yeah.
you can pay me later.
yeah, yeah.
Any other questions right now? All right. We talked about the lifeline of trademarks, just since we also talked copyrights a little bit also. How long does a copyright last?
Isn't it
I'm going to
60
test you on this
No,
one.
don't test me on that. Is it 65 years or 80?
After the person dies.
Yeah.
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 So,
As long as you're in good standing, right? So in Arizona, that's pretty straightforward. In some states, you have to file maintenance paperwork every year. But as long as you're in good standing, or you can deactivate it. Yeah.
and that's the default now when you're forming LLCs. I think they finally changed it. Before they asked you how long you want, when do you want it to end? Now it's
Yeah.
an automatic, it's
Yeah.
indefinitely.
Until
So,
you end it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I think I've asked this in a couple different ways, but with the groups that's here, I'm going to ask, what's your best advice for business startups, and what are the biggest things they should look out for to protect themselves from?
Be mindful when you are signing contracts, right? It's not just about the contracts that you're sending for other people, it's the contracts that you're also signing. I was reading a case, I should send it to you. Well, it wasn't a case, it was a story, a news article, before I came here, and it was about how this woman decided to just go live on a boat. She's like 72 something, and she's like, I'm just living my life on a boat, and her husband had passed away, and she had lost pretty much everything. She lost her company, she lost her trademark, and the reason that happened was because she had a store, I forget where she was based, but she had a store selling certain prints. She was basically a clothing designer, and she was selling these certain prints, and someone came in and he was like, wow, I really like these prints. He took a liking to them, and he's like, let's get you involved. I want to invest. And he invested, bought rights into the company, and that company then became Liz Claiborne. Okay. This company then had a variety of different brands under them, and Liz Claiborne decided, hey, something happened, and they're like, hey, we're actually cutting about 30 of these brands. There's only going to be 5 brands left. One of them, I think, was like Lucky Jeans. And so a bunch of brands got cut, including this one. It was something Sinclair, I believe, was her name. And, yeah, well, I don't know. I gotta find it again. But
Okay.
it was this name. Anyways, so pretty sure it was Sinclair. Anyways, so her company is one that basically got eliminated, right? They said no more. But guess what? She had signed over all of her trademark rights. So she was the designer, and now she's basically out of a job, and she can no longer take this brand and use it anymore either, because they are saying, hey, like, you signed all your rights over to us, so we own the IP. She ended up eventually getting it back, but it was after months of a legal battle. So when you are starting your business, you're starting your brand, you are going into these deals, you just want to be mindful, what are you signing over? I never recommend signing over your IP rights. Or if you are signing over IP rights, putting in contingencies such as, if this closes down, all IP rights revert back to me.
And to the idea of trademarks and trade names and brand names, it was Kate Spade who started her own, obviously, luxury handbags and sold her name and couldn't use her own name. Do you recommend to young business owners starting out to look and create something that isn't their identity? Because if their business goes big enough, far enough, fast enough, and the sales price is too good to pass up, are they having to give up their own identity going forward?
Well, your name is still your name, right? It's not like you can't be called your specific name, but you will no longer be able to offer anything that would cause confusion under your name. So at that point, you would either have to start something under an entirely new brand name, or you would have to be in an entirely different arena, right? So if you have a handbag line and you are selling your name to this company, and then you decide, I want to start a clothing brand, well, that's not going to fly. That's going to be too similar, right? So in the alternative, if you want to start, a microphone brand or something like that, that could pass. They're different enough. But then it gets into, we talk about Kate Spade, like that becomes such a well-known and widespread recognizable name that they could still come after you. So at what point is it worth it, because they have those bigger pockets, right, to continue a long drawn out legal battle? So it's a hard and nuanced question to answer. It's one that
I can't
says,
give you all easy ones.
It depends, it depends. Because the other thing that's going through my head right now is we live in an age where personal brands are high and mighty. They are everything, right? People are chronically online. People are eating up personal brands right now. And so personal brands can be really powerful, and so is owning them. But when it comes time to have something beyond yourself, which I can even explain kind of from my firm. My firm started out as Chandler J. Law, right? Originally it was Chandler J. Law, but I'm like, I don't want it to always be Chandler J. Law forever, because I'm not trying to be the face of the company. I'm okay with having a personal brand. I want a personal brand, but I don't want my law firm to be my face, because it's not just me, right? We have other attorneys, we have other people on the team that you'll be working with. So I don't ever want someone to come in with the expectation like it is only me. So it depends on what you're doing, especially if you're a service-based company. I don't think personal brands are the best, because people have that expectation. It will always be you that they're working with. And at the end of the day, if you're a service-based business and it is all you will cap out at some point. You only have a certain capacity.
Right. Yeah, fun local stories with the McCaffrey bars, the Irish bars. Downtown Phoenix, it was Seamus McCaffrey's. He owned it, sold it, then decided he wanted to get back in the bar business. He couldn't use his own name, and he used his second wife's name, Rosie McCaffrey's, who then divorced him and took half the bar because she was married to him when he opened the bar. So it's difficult with trade names and brand names. So I think that's helpful, and the idea of coming up with something that's got staying power. And I always joke with my students, you've got Apple, who's a fruit, and their name is as prominent as possible. And you got Microsoft, which is a completely fabricated name, and they're both equally as powerful. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to do if you're not Apple.
Yeah.
So come up with a good name, something creative.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like Wonderland, vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, our group thinned out a little bit, and I know everyone had to go to class or work, but for those of you that have stayed and trekked us out, thank you, first of all. I'll give you one last chance to ask some questions. Yeah. Anybody, Tanya? No more? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Test Trademark Electronic Search System, so TESS.
It's a .gov, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's on the
.gov.
USPTO website. So if you go to USPTO, if you type into Google USPTO tests, it'll come up. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Asset Protection Program. Yep. APP for short. Yeah. No.
We have different teachers each time. The only constant is you get me up here.
Yeah. And if you are here and you are interested in the DIY program, DM me and I will give you a good discount code for it to snag it. Yeah.
Yeah, we try to bring people in that have expertise like Chandler does, so that on each subject we can have wizards. And I have a feeling I could probably twist Chandler to come back, because our next one's marketing.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
she's a hell of a marketer.
Thank you.
But We'll see what she's doing 2 weeks
We'll
from
see how it's
today.
going. Absolutely.
Go ahead,
I
Tanya.
don't have a question, but I do want to say thank you.
Yeah.
For answering all the questions, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime. Of course. And if you guys have, we have a little bit of time. So if you're like, hey, this is the type of business I want to start, and you want to tell me a little bit about, specifically what you're wanting to start, I can try and give you as much insight as possible.
And we have some blank paper if you want her to sign an NDA first.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Well, Chandler, thank you so much for your
Absolutely.
time today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Yes. Do I think it would be a good idea to open a coffee shop right now? That's going to depend on the terms. It's going to depend on the location. And I think anything is a good idea as long as you can create enough distinction in the market, right? There are tons of coffee shops, tons of law firms. That's totally fine. What makes you different? What is your unique value proposition? Why do you stand out? And that can really be done in marketing. It truly does.
Yeah.
It comes down to branding and it comes down to marketing. So, for example, with what I do, you can probably go on my site. There aren't other attorneys that are presenting the way I do. There's, a lot of people are stiff and kind of buttoned up and they walk around like high and mighty. That's not what legal does. But we operate with a lot of precision and we try to bring human into the law while also being extremely badass. Okay, so that's kind of our unique edge, and we don't present as the typical law firm. There's other firms that don't necessarily present as the typical firm, but they are a little more just like light and airy, if that makes sense in their branding, and we're a little more like dark to the point. Yeah, lethal, right? We come in lethal. So I would say yes, as long as you can figure out what lane you want to be in and you make that branding so good and you target a very specific customer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hold up that confidence. It's like in your attitudes and everything that you do, how you hold yourself up. How can you do that?
I feel like it's so interesting. Lethal was truly born, I feel like, just from how I feel internally as a whole. And I think that's great when your branding reflects who you are as a person, right? I'll tell you what, if I came here and I was in like a floral, frilly dress, I would feel so uncomfortable because that's just not me. I'm sure it would look great, but you guys can't see. I'm fully tatted, right? You can't see behind my boots. My leg is fully tatted. My arm is full. I'm very tattooed. It doesn't fit me. It doesn't suit me. And so I think that when it comes to branding, to find something that you are super lit up about and passionate about and that you can really pour your life into, it has to align with who you are as a person. Now, that doesn't mean that I look like this all the time, right? Tonight, my hair will be up, I will not have red lips on, and I will be in sweatpants, and that is totally fine. But I still have that confidence and that edge and that lethal side to me, and so finding your edge of whatever it is, right? Whether it's lethal or whether it is more, light and airy or whatever that edge is for you, and really leaning into that in your brand. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you all very much once again for coming in, and we are lucky to have someone that's a little edgy show up.
Always.
Now I feel bad that I wore my suit.
I'll suit it up.